What's up, everybody? Apparently, we ruined America. You know,
Nice.
We were trying to hold the person in power, President Trump, accountable for not fulfilling some of his promises, and that was foolish, man.
Nah, you're an idiot,
That
dude.
was
You're
a
bad
foolish
person.
thing to do. Once you vote for somebody, no matter what they do, even if it's the exact opposite of what they say they're gonna do, you just ride that until the wheels fall off.
Yes, double
Right?
down.
Exactly.
Always double down.
Like if you vote for a guy that you know is dead, you pretend he's not dead for 4 years.
Exactly.
That's what makes you virtuous.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's what makes you care about your country.
a
side, man.
Pick a side and you die for that side. You know, so that's, you know, that was a big up of ours.
That was a big up, man.
We
Huge.
just kind of wanted to know about Epstein, you know, victimizing 1,000 girls and who else he did it with. We just kind of wanted to know. And Trump was like, you're not going to know. And we were like, I don't like that.
Yeah, but
that's
being
our fault.
Yeah, that's being a bad American.
But we were being bad.
Okay, I don't care about this guy. Wait, let me finish my two things before we do COVID real quick. They've already put all 16 gigabytes of Wikipedia into DNA storage. Why is that? Is storing DNA even? Is that even more information dense than where transistors are at now with storage, or it's at a molecular level? Are nanometers not molecular? What is the average diameter of an amino acid? Oh, this is still going a bit smaller than where we're at right now. 7-year-old video, bruh. More pirate software hate.
Literally runs in a smart fridge. That is
What? Man, the haters are out in full force today. What is the point of this clip?
literally runs in a smart fridge. That is
The transistors on a 4 nanometer chip or whatever are way larger than 4 nanometers, I think. Yeah, I think they started changing the way that they counted this at some distance in order to pretend they have like smaller distance between them than they actually do or something. I don't remember, but
if in 1,000 years we're still using DNA and RNA and proteins for top-end manufacturing, the frontiers of engineering, how surprised would you be? Would you think like, oh, that makes sense, evolution designed these systems for billions of years? Or would you think like, oh, it's surprising that these ended up being the systems, whatever evolution found just happened to be the best way to manufacture or to store information or...
Yeah. I don't think I'd be surprised either way. I can imagine it going either way. I can imagine making truly amazing materials using proteins as the catalysts, or maybe in some cases as a scaffold as well as catalysts. I think one thing that's probably already happening, so we don't have to go 1,000 years out, is the number of amino acids is going up. It's going up radically from 20. I think pretty soon we'll have a system where we can have 34 new non-standard amino acids being used simultaneously while the standard ones in a E. coli cell. So 34 plus 20 is a lot bigger than 20. I don't think we necessarily need more than 4 nucleic acid components. Certainly there's plenty of modified ones. There's a bunch of alternative base pairs, some of which don't even involve hydrogen bonds. So we could have more. But I think the main thing is this information storage, and whether it's bits, digital binary is just zeros and ones.
I didn't pay attention to that. I'm sorry. Hold on. My bad. Let me try to
If in 1,000 years we're still using DNA and RNA and proteins for top-end manufacturing, the frontiers of engineering, how surprised would you be? Would you think like, oh, that makes sense, evolution designed these systems for billions of years? Or would you think like, oh, it's surprising that these ended up being the systems, whatever evolution found just happened to be the best way to manufacture or to store information or...
Yeah. I don't think I'd be surprised either way. I can imagine it going either way. I can imagine making truly amazing materials using proteins as the catalysts, or maybe in some cases as a scaffold as well as catalysts. I think one thing that's probably already happening, so we don't have to go 1,000 years out, is the number of amino acids is going up. It's going up radically from 20. I think pretty soon we'll have a system where we can have 34 new non-standard amino acids being used simultaneously while the standard ones in a E. coli cell. So 34 plus 20 is a lot bigger than 20. I don't think we necessarily need more than 4 nucleic acid components. Certainly there's plenty of modified ones. There's a bunch of alternative base pairs, some of which don't even involve hydrogen bonds. So we could have more. But I think the main thing is this information storage, and whether it's bits, it's digital binary is just zeros and ones. That works pretty well for 99% of what we do electronically. So having 4 is better than 2, maybe. But do we really need 6? I don't know. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we had. Another possibility is that we change the backbone of DNA. So maybe keep the ACGT, but make it out of peptides now. A little bit smaller, a little bit more compatible. I don't know. Or no, we really need 6, 9% of what we do electronically. So having 4 is better than 2, maybe. But do we really need 6? I don't know. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we had. Another possibility is that we change the backbone of DNA. So maybe keep the ACGT, but make it out of peptides now. A little bit smaller, a little bit more compatible. I don't know. Or maybe that'll just be just a slight, it could be part of the new amino acid collection. And there'll be more. I mean, these are just things that my primitive 21st century brain is coming up with. 1,000 years from now, it'll be a whole new millennium.
So it makes sense why evolution wouldn't have discovered like radio technology, right? But things like
Wait, is having like better than binary or holding? I'm trying to think. Like is having, rather than having zeros and ones, is having like zeros and ones and 2s and 3s? Does that make it so you can store data more efficiently? Are zeros and ones just essentially for like on-off switches to make larger logic gates? Does it help to be able to do 0 through 3? Do you create like a different type of like Turing completeness or like a different type of logic system? Or does it actually... It does, but it needs to be sliced. It's more complicated. Okay. Anything else? Before we do our COVID memes. What are they going to do with the jet ski? Pick them all up? He's saving them all. If only he was... No, I wouldn't tweet that. Never mind. Nope.
I don't know. I just...
Hey, chat, you know... Are you dead ass right now? What the fuck?
Easy,
There's no way!
Come on! You got it!
Oh!
Look at that!
Wait, what the fuck?
Come on! Come on! Finish strong! Come on!
All the way!
Come on! Come on!
She's moving the mountain!
Strong!
Oh
Use your
my
legs! Use your arms! You got it! Strong!
Apparently, as I rewatched Game of Thrones, did they have like 3 or 4 different actors for the mountain? And then he was like the one that they ended up going with. No, I'm trying to remember if he was the first. Yeah. He wasn't the first one, was he? One second.
just saw like a lot of
2.1 thousand comments. Wait, what? Why do people even care about this clip that much?
I don't know. I just saw like a lot of what I've tried to do with commentary in general, which is like to influence others to also do right and to defend vulnerable people and to show.
I can't even. I'm good on this.
And that's why blackmail is powerful. Well, then kill the people that are blackmailing you.
Okay, never mind. I must have been reading chat. That's actually a pretty funny transition. Jesus Christ! What the fuck?
Defend vulnerable people and with commentary in general, which is like to influence others to also do right and to defend vulnerable people and to show.
I can't even. I'm good on this.
And that's why blackmail is powerful. Well, then kill the people that are blackmailing you. You're the president. If you can't kill people that are blackmailing you as the president, I don't want you to be the president. Straight up.
Based.
If you can't figure out a way to kill him, Bill Clinton did that.
What? Nice. Okay. Sorry. Jesus. I'm getting sidetracked.
No one
Fuck.
here knows.
I don't know if anything will ever be better than the... I got so fucking lucky. No! Why did this monitor just shut off? Stop! Did this get unplugged? Hold on. No, it's not even the right one. Hello? Okay, fuck it. You know what? We're restarting. Ugh. Well, I think we were watching a Noah Samson video, and he was talking about how obsessed I am about Hassan, and then and then I bring up Hassan's stream. Oh my god, Kino! Nothing will ever be as cinematic in my life. Oh, okay.
video after video about him. The frequency of these videos increased after Destiny was banned from Twitch. In the span of time since then, he has uploaded almost 80 videos about Hassan out of a total of like 450 videos. So that's at least 1/5.
I've uploaded 450 videos between my 3 YouTube channels in the last 2 years. Damn, August. And he's going to pay cut. I would have thought it would have been over 1,000 videos, but you know.
His working life spent talking about Hassan. In contrast, in the same span of time, Hassan has uploaded over 1,200 videos, and he's talked about Destiny a total of 5 times. 5. 4 of them have...
Like, Hassan talked about me 5 times yesterday. What is this framing? It's actually unhinged.
Like, I genuinely think Destiny's unhealthy obsession over the course...
I need a break. Like, come on! Really? No, come on! Seriously? Five times! I got lucky and I hit number 6.
have come in the last few months while covering.
By the way, that doesn't prove anything. I could have just gotten really lucky. I see a lot of people reposting this Dave Smith account. You know this isn't like Dave Smith, right? I can't tell if my audience is getting mind fucked or not by this. I think you guys think it's actually the Dave Smith.
Never do anything to hurt her, right? So you said that you love your wife and you would never do anything to hurt her, right?
Yeah, I love my wife.
Okay, great. Do you think that you could beat her physically in a fight?
Well, of course I could. I'm 220 pounds and she's like $110. It wouldn't even be close. Of course I could. Of course I could physically.
Hold on,
take her.
I'm just going to stop you. So you just admitted to fantasizing about beating the shit out of your wife.
That is absolutely... Hold on.
His address is 192. I'm trying to protect women.
Based. True. It's Israel. Oh, shit. Where's our song? Jewish song. It's Israel. I gotta have this. Thank you, Kyle Kolinsky. That sounds kind of closer to Megan Thee Stallion. Oh, who's Megan Thee Stallion? Is that like a musician? Is that like Doja Cat? Rapper. Based.
One man. One stage. This arena.
People assume that Israel was very good at... I don't care about you. Wait. Oh. What does the hammer mean? He got unbanned a long time ago? Okay. Jan 6. Trump is paving the White House Rose Garden. For what? How often does that happen?
The White
White House opened about 1800, a little before that, just a tad. And I've always said, why doesn't it have a flagpole from the grass? They call it a flagpole from the grass. They have a little one on top, a very little one. This is about the largest you'll ever see, and it's tapered. It's at a quality that you guys rarely get to even put up. They do that for a living. They're incredible people. I don't know them, but I love them.
Okay.
And I would bet that they all voted for Trump. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I think so. But we're about to lift it, and we also have one.
So just mirrors his belt way too high. If you just wear some pants, I don't know what they're called, but if you have like certain types of pants, you wear them at the like right at or right below, I think, the belly button, and then other slacks will will right on your above your hips. It just depends on what the pants. Hello, the pants you're wearing is.
Going on what's called the front or the north, we have one going there, identical. So we'll have one on this side of the building, we'll have one on that side of the building, properly placed. In this case, we had a lot of choices, putting it on that hill, putting it different places. It's such a beautiful pole, we thought we'd put it near. I mean, it always looks best when it's near a Doral. I put it right near. I have a similar pole. And these are the best poles anywhere in the country, or in the world, actually. They're tapered. They have the nice top. You know, I don't know if you people are aesthetic. You know, they're the fake news. I don't know if I don't know if they're. But it's a very exciting project to me. And then at 11 o'clock, we're lifting the flag. But we're going to lift the pole now. The phone call that he said I didn't make, that I documented, you just...
Imagine, just think about what I'm going to do for this fight, and then think about what Trump is going to do for this fight. You know what I mean? It's going to be it's a one-of-one experience. Like when we did the Sphere, it's the Sphere on steroids. I mean, it's going to be a one-of-one event. There'll be nothing like it ever again. You know, obviously everybody wants to fight.
Okay. All right. Okay. Boredom time. No more. Anything exciting.
What happened to all Dota 2 streamers? Bro, the thing is, you lack critical thinking. You have to understand, when you play matchmaking every day, 10 hours a fucking day, where Valve is literally the Wild West in this server. There are no rules, people just yell at each other, people grief every game. Now imagine do that 10 hours a fucking day for years. You think you're gonna just survive this onslaught of idiocy? Idiots just yelling at each other constantly in foreign languages you don't understand? It's all good though.
Nice.
How does it feel to be in the belly of the beast? You made it all the way to New York City and you walked into 1211 Avenue of the Americas. You made it to the 15th floor and you're sitting in a studio at Fox.
Feels amazing. BLM sent me. I'm here to drop bombs off.
The kids are dead. They're never coming back. They're gone. Okay? Their little baby lungs filled with... Wait, is that an AI edit or did I say that? Did I say BLM sent me? I'm here to drop bombs? There's no way I said that, right? Did I?
BLM sent me. I'm here to drop bombs off.
The kids are dead. They're never coming back. They're gone. Okay? Their little baby lungs filled with water and they're fucking dead.
How much of my money goes to welfare to take care of you every day? Can you even dress yourself? Can you wipe your own ass, you fat...
Why? Every now and then you might have 20, 30 kids blown away at some fucking school. But, you know, our test scores suck anyway, so is it really that big of a loss? Okay. That was all AI. You said that, but not in this interview. Yeah, maybe it was taken from somewhere else, I guess. Yeah, okay. All right.
Gary. Hello, SpongeBob's house. SpongeBob speaking.
I'm edging right now. I'm so close. Oh, please. I just want to come. Yes. Oh, wait. Say,
Yeah.
Oh.
Why? All right, no more Daliban memes. All right. Should we read Eric's decision first, or should we read Will's decision first?
Okay, today I'm speaking with David.
AI, America, Fun, and Bays. Fuck that. The longer one first. Who wrote the longer one? I think it was Eric, right? Bruh. 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 Okay, let me set my notes up ahead of time for how I want to organize this. Okay. Yes. We should just call this that yes. And then, do I need this? No, delete. Do I care about this? Okay, we'll call this origin arguments. What would you say lab leak versus zoonosis transfer? Lab leak versus with that, one of those just sounds way more legit than the other. I feel like that's not fair. Did Peter win the 100K or what? He did. He did indeed win. He was a champion. Stop! Laboratory origin and zoonotic transfer. We'll say that. Would I even separate these out like this, though? Because these sections aren't going to be even. New factorial clone. Wow, cool. I don't know about all this shit. I'll do that later. Fuck it. I'll see how they structure their papers. All right, root claim COVID-19 origins debate, final decision. Eric Stanzifer was one of two judges. In 2023 of November, Root Claim organized a three-part 20-hour debate with written supplements on the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. Root Claim, represented by Sar Wilf, claimed that SARS-CoV-2 was the artificial consequence of gain-of-function laboratory research. Challenger Peter Miller contended that SARS-CoV-2 transferred from an animal host without laboratory involvement. On the basis of the evidence and arguments presented during the debate, I find with high confidence that zoonotic spillover is the most likely origin of SARS-CoV-2. The most important basis for this decision is the relative epidemiological proximity of the earliest indicators of COVID to a plausible animal source rather than potential laboratory source. Oh shit, he's gonna... This is the hard one to overcome. I agree. We'll see. We'll see how he argues it. While Root claim identified unusual characteristics of the genetics of SARS-CoV-2 and the potential for laboratory work to create a similar virus, I found this insufficient to overcome the proximity evidence and the prior against a laboratory origin. This decision was made independently of any decision reached by the other judge. The debate outcome will be determined by the consensus of both judges. Wow. Jesus Christ. Introduction. When the novel coronavirus, people keep bringing this up, and I don't know what books were ever written about this. I still don't understand what, maybe I missed this, but when the novel coronavirus started dominating headlines in mid-January of 2020, I was checking the news every day, counting cases, tracking international transmissions, wondering when it would reach my city, and preparing for quarantine. Which never happened, presumably warded off by my pasta stockpile, like rain from an umbrella. Wow. I know now, in retrospect, that instead of planning for the coming pandemic, I should have spent that time reading about COVID origin theories and kept at it for these past 4 years uninterrupted, as only then might I have been adequately prepared for the deluge of detailed claims. Deluge. It's deluge, right? Wait. Deluge. It's deluge. Wait.
To rise into a deluge of humankind.
Deluge.
Although it can be difficult to see the water deluge system.
Deluge.
All these consumer products on the marketplace was a deluge.
Deluge.
As we go through life and face the deluge of stimuli that we encounter.
Ooh, she said it way different.
It was called the data deluge because I thought
deluge.
AD after the deluge.
Deluge.
For even though we've reduced the deluge of job losses.
Wow. The controversial word.
In this data deluge, it's in 24/7. All
harmonies in place, we can expect a deluge of...
Deluge? Okay, we'll say deluge. Fuck it. Fuck that word. Damn. Of detailed claims and arguments presented during the debate. Before participating in this debate, I had no realization of the vast depth of evidence and analysis encompassed in the gamut of was COVID a lab leak? Same. It is not possible to answer that question without addressing the depth of evidence head on, unfortunately true, and the length of this document reflects that duty. Even still, many of the claims brought up during the debate pass unchallenged here. However, the reader should not be intimidated by its length. That's what she said. The argument is quite simple at its heart, and I have striven to make my decision or my discussion approachable. Striven. Is that a real... I've strived. I have striven. Is that really a word? I'm assuming most readers will be skipping over the equations or more mathy parts, which are mostly non-essential to the text. If you plan on verifying the calculations, you will have some work ahead of you, as I usually only gave the minimum information needed to infer how each calculation was performed. Oh boy. In this section, we will introduce the necessarily introduce the necessary context to understand the differing arguments about the origin of COVID. This covers both the spread of the earliest known COVID cases and the details of how the SARS-CoV-2 virus works and how it relates to other viruses. In Section 2, I will explain and demonstrate how Bayesian updating can be used to estimate the probability of a hypothesis conditioned on observations. We're skipping that whole section. In Section 3, I demonstrate how Bayesian inference can be done incorrectly, and I assess root claims 2 Bayesian calculations. We're skipping all that one too. Section 4 concerns the most critical question of the debate: how significant was the COVID outbreak in the Huanan seafood market? This includes an extended discussion of root claims reasoning for expecting a COVID outbreak there under the lab leak hypothesis. Section 5 covers a miscellanea of topics related to the genetics of SARS-CoV-2, including the Project Diffuse proposal that is the centerpiece of the lab leak hypothesis. In Section 6, we have a brief interlude to ask why there has been no whistleblower for the origin of COVID. Finally, in Section 7, having assessed others' arguments at lengths, I present my own best interpretation of the zoonotic and lab leak hypotheses and their relative likelihood. Readers may also find the glossary of technical terms in the appendix useful. In the following, I will be writing at length about my disagreements with the argument presented by Root Claim, which may create the illusion that I think they were wrong about everything, or conversely, that I agree with Peter's claims by absence of discussion of them. This is not true. Rather, this document is plenty long even without any discussion of points of agreement. Much of my analysis and reasoning is condensed or omitted. YouTube chat equals best chat 100 heart. Love you guys. Even when you suck hard and act like ignorant, dogmatic fundamentalists, you are needed and fights the holy war well. Okay. I've grounded my analysis in the facts and evidence, but it was performed under acute time pressure on a subject which I am not an expert in, did not have a strong pre-existing opinion, and, per the rules of the debate, I could not independently research. Much of the analysis involves conflicting tertiary sources, so that I must critically assess claims made by people with greater expertise or experience than I, and with access to primary or secondary sources that I lack. I've done my best. May the reader be understanding of any errors in fact or judgment that follow. While I do ultimately compute a numerical confidence level in the competing hypotheses, the resulting numbers should not be taken in earnest. To get to this quantitative conclusion required assigning numbers to many speculative or unknowable processes for which there are a wide range of believable values. I expect the reader to favor different numbers or choices than I made. 1.1 background. What happened in Wuhan? True. I'm trying to think of. This would go in background, I think. This is a 2. It is, okay. The pandemic. I'm gonna copy his shit here. Okay. Background. What happened in Wuhan? A butterfly with the flap of its wings is said to change the path of a hurricane on the other side of the earth. I don't think that's actually true. Wait, he just says this is true. If you mean a hurricane at least 2 weeks in the future, which is approximately the time scale over which the weather is chaotic. Okay. There is no better exemplar of the butterfly effect than the beginnings of a pandemic. A single cough or sneeze, a decision to go work or see a friend, and the lives of 10 million people swing in the balance. Inevitably, the earlier one tries to trace the origins of COVID-19, the narrower the trail until it is reduced to the mundane daily activities of a handful of individuals whose identities may be lost to time. The farthest back we have been able to follow the trail is to the city of Wuhan, a massive metropolis of 12 million people in the Chinese province Hubei, bigger than any state of the US or Western Europe by some definitions. The pandemic. Location. How do you guys decide if you want to make like subheadings or like just lists? I wonder. Wuhan. The first known cases of COVID-19 came from Wuhan, were detected in the city of Wuhan, a population 12 million people metropolis in the Chinese province of Hubei. I should just call this origin, actually. Makes more sense. On 2019, December 26th or 27th, at the height of the flu season, Dr. Zhang Zhizhang examined 2 patients whose unusual CT scan reminded her of her experience with the SARS-1 outbreak of 2002 to 2003. She's generally recognized as the discoverer of COVID-19 thanks to her prompt and appropriate response. Near this time, other healthcare workers began to notice a pattern of pneumonia cases and likewise leapt to action. Dr. Is it Zhang I don't know how to pronounce this lady's name. ZH equals J, X equals SH. Zhang. Wait, so Zhang Zhizhang? Zhizhang? Zhang Zhizhang? Okay, let's go with that one. At the Hubei Province Hospital of Integrated Chinese and Western Medicine, a grade 3A tertiary hospital. Okay. Does that matter? You know what, it does. We're going to throw it in there, just in case. Near this time, other healthcare workers began to notice a pattern of pneumonia cases and likewise leapt to action. On December 30th, an emergency notice circulated amongst Wuhan hospitals regarding 27 hospitalized patients with pneumonia of unknown cause, at least some of whom were associated with the Huanan seafood wholesale market in downtown Wuhan. On December 30th, Wuhan hospitals posted an emergency notice concerning 27 patients with pneumonia, unknown cause. I need to see this notice. Is this notice anywhere? Did this December 30th notice actually specify the seafood wholesale market? December 30th, Wuhan notice, patients. At 3:10 p.m. on December 30th, Wuhan Municipal Health and Health Commission issued the official document emergency notice on reporting the treatment of pneumonia of unknown causes. The National Health Commission dispatched a working group and an expert team in the wee hours of December 31st to Wuhan to guide epidemic response and conduct on-site investigations. On December the first alarm for she was also the leader of hospital rescue work. By early February, miracles and out of her team had been affected in Wuhan, where the outbreak was most severe. In February, the Hubei Provincial Human Resources. Holy shit! That's not a BSL 7 suit. I'm trying to see. Okay, on December 30th, she warned in an online group chat on WeChat that Dr. Li Wenling, okay. He was initially reprimanded for disrupting the public order. Oh, what did this guy say? He'd seen a report showing positive test results of SARS for 7 patients. What an idiot. What in your mind is the most convincing piece of evidence that doesn't rely on us taking the CCP's word for anything? It's the way the case is spread, 100%. Seafood market. Huh, okay. I want to be very precise about this. At least some of whom were associated with the Huanan seafood wholesale market. So they don't know this yet. Or the hospital's statement doesn't say that yet. Fuck, does anybody have a thing of this? 27 patients. Where is this? 27 patients, December 30th, Wuhan. Ooh, nice news article. Ah, this was here. Chinese health authorities said they are investigating 27 cases of viral pneumonia in the central city of Wuhan after rumors on social media suggested the outbreak could be linked to severe acute respiratory syndrome. This was posted on December 31st. Damn. Okay. Time in China is ahead, not behind, right? Like they would be on the next day, not the last one? What time is it in China? Like, is it the 16th over there right now? It is. Okay. Is this going to be in my time zone? Oh, EST. Okay. Of the people infected, 7 were in critical condition and 18 were in stable condition. The Wuhan Municipal Health Commission said on Tuesday on its Weibo social media account the condition of 2 other patients had improved to the point to where they would be discharged soon. It said the cause of the disease is not clear. The official People's Daily newspaper said on Weibo, citing unnamed hospital officials, we cannot confirm it is what's being spread online, that it is a SARS virus. Other severe pneumonia is more likely. All of the patients had been isolated and their close contacts are under medical observation, the Wuhan Municipal Health Commission said. An investigation and cleanup were underway at a seafood market in the city, which is suspected to be connected with the cases, it said. Interesting. Okay, that's good to have. It's Weibo, not Weibo. How about, wait, Levi, have you heard of the Dragon Market down here? Where I'm dragging these nuts? Sorry. Okay. At least some of these early cases appearing to be connected to the Huanan seafood wholesale market. In downtown Wuhan. Around this time, government officials began to become involved, in many ways interfering with the actions of healthcare professionals. HSM was sanitized and closed the morning of January 1st, and samples were collected on and after January 1st. Oof. Did they sanitized it first and then they collected samples? Good one, China. On January 1st, HSM was sanitized, partly due to heavy interference from the Chinese government, with samples being collected after. I'm guessing that's a 22 and 12. I'm guessing he's going to get more into this later on. God damn. Um, doesn't say sanitization isn't brought up in any of these. Oh, it doesn't matter though. Jesus. SARS-CoV-2 was detected in 74 environmental samples, but none of the animal samples. 3 live viruses were successfully isolated. The viruses from the market showed a nucleotide identity of 99.99% to 100% with the human isolate HCoV-19 /Wuhan/HIV/SARS-CoV-2 lineage A was found in an environmental sample. RNA sequencing analysis SARS-CoV-2 positive, SARS-CoV-2 negative. Environmental sample showed an abundance of different vertebrate genera at the market. What does this mean? Genome backbone parts or parts of... I don't know what the fuck this means. Genera? Okay. Oh, it's a plural of genus. Okay. Summary of the study provides information about the distribution and prevalence. Okay. We'll just throw this up here. Fuck it. Some good sources to have. Redo the bibliography on this offline. The warnings posted on December 30th in Mandarin. Oh, I can read this now, so. But I'll translate for you guys. Some medical institutions found that pneumonia cases they've received are related to the South China seafood market. Damn. Okay. On December 31st, 2019. Jesus. Okay. Damn. That's a doozer. That's a big doozer. Not good. Let me use the restroom 1 second. I wasn't talking to you. Don't worry. Shh. Sorry, okay. I took more cough medicine. Okay. I need music. On January 1st. Wait, where were we? On January 20th, 2020, the Chinese National Health Commission announced confirmation of human-human transmission of COVID-19 to multiple healthcare workers. Significant evidence of human-human transmission existed before this time. On January 23rd, Wuhan entered lockdown and China invested heavily in tracking and curtailing COVID, successfully containing it by April. COVID would remain under control with increasing difficulty until Omicron made China's zero COVID policy impossible to maintain. I'll say publicly confirmed. Okay. Huanan Seafood Market.
It must be hard being a man.
We'll get this guy its own.
You're born alone and you die alone, and this world just drops a bunch of rules on top of you to make you forget those facts. But I love working with guys like me.
So what is the significance of HSM? HSM is a large urban market with at least 1,200 employees working in 680 shops located on the first story of a multi-story building on mixed-use zoning. 1,200 employee market with 680 shops located on the first story of a multi-story building. While each avenue of stalls is roofed, the ends are not, and a major road divides the market into west and east halves. The market sold a variety of goods, some of which included wild or exotic live animals. Can somebody explain to me the appeal of like eating like a raccoon dog or whatever? Like, is beef not good enough? Like, are these like, do Chinese people like have the best steaks in the world? And you're like, you know what? It's not enough. I need to eat some crazy shit. It's cheap. Oh, maybe they capture and they sell it for on the cheap. Didn't you go to Korea? Yeah, I ate chicken. At least some of the trade in animals was likely illegal. While SARS-CoV-2 originated in bats, it is not known that any bats were sold in the market. Any intermediate species between bats and humans are unknown. The market did have live animals that were susceptible to SARS-like coronaviruses and were imported from South China, where the progenitor of SARS-CoV-2 is almost certainly found. Wait, what was this footnote 8? Being off topic, I elsewhere refrain from giving my extremely vehement opinions about the extraordinary incompetence collectively demonstrated by industrialized Western countries in the face of the initial COVID outbreak, made all the more embarrassing by the fact that the WHO gave advance warning with explicit action items, and China was successful even without those. I think the U.S. should take a hard look at how other countries handle certain issues and have the ambition to at least try to be a world leader. Compare how the U.S. has 80 kilometers of high-speed rail, the Aquila Corridor, and plans to build another 192 kilometers by 2033 in California, whereas China has built 42,000 kilometers since 2008. While disease control is easier in an autocracy, I hasten to point out that New Zealand and Taiwan both successfully eliminated COVID until Omicron. Had the US the same death rate as New Zealand, Taiwan, Australia, Japan, or South Korea, about 1 million of the estimated 1.2 million US COVID deaths would have been averted. There needs to be an accounting for the US's actions that asks why we let 1 million people die. Damn. Way to go, Fauci. The market did not sell bats. The suspected species that would have been the carrier for the progenitor of SARS-CoV-2, though animals sold from the market were imported from South China, or bats that almost certainly carried the progenitor were found. Thus, when multiple people who were susceptible, did we get through footnote 9 yet? I don't even know where the there are 1,162 vendors according to 32 Annex page 182, presumably a variety of other full-time employees as well. Okay. Thus, when multiple people who were employed at HSM became sick with a virus resembling SARS-CoV-1, it was natural to suspect the possibility of an animal host at the market being responsible. Indeed, in early January, before there existed adequate capacity for testing for COVID, having an epidemiological link to the market was one component of a diagnosis of COVID. In the time from 2019 of December 10th, when the earliest known COVID case, Wei Guixian, became ill, and the market closure on January 1st, approximately 200 people are known to have had onset of COVID, of which 62 or 63 were vendors at the market, and others had known epidemiological connections to it. Okay. You'd think that although we don't know how many people had COVID in 29 December, surely we'd know how many we know of. Alas not. This is the elusive unknown known of the Rumsfeld quadrifecta. Okay. Two photographs from the west half of Huanan Seafood Market showing the varying air circulation conditions within the market. The first image looks south along the main corridor from Alley 13. The second is located within Alley 9. These images were taken from this site. Click on the yellow dot above the 13 and 2 to the left of the 9. Holy shit. They had a whole ass fucking website for this. Oh fuck, but they locally host all the videos and everything. Cringe. The Rumsfeld quadrifecta is a division of concealed knowledge into 4 categories: known things, unknown unknowns. Cool. Okay. Background. What is in the SARS-CoV-2 genome? I feel like this is, we got information up here on this. Coronaviruses are large viruses whose genome consists of a single strand of RNA with approximately 30,000 nucleotides. That's this here. The RNA is entangled with many copies of the viral nucleocapsid protein, and when outside of cells is protected by an envelope consisting of a membrane taken from the host cell and studded with viral proteins. Viral RNA is translated by ribosomes in the host cell to form proteins. Coronavirus genome is a positive sense, meaning that the genomic RNA is transcribed to make negative sense RNA, which is then translated. I thought positive just meant it could be... Wait, what is the difference between transcription and translation? Is transcription just when you make a negative of the DNA or RNA sequence? And then translation is when you create proteins? Transcription is DNA to RNA. Translation is RNA to protein. Oh, interesting. Okay. Is this... I could be wrong here, but he says the coronavirus genome is positive sense, meaning that first the genomic RNA is transcribed to make negative sense RNA, which is then translated. I don't think that's necessarily true, is it? Positive sense just means that the human cell, the host ribosome, reads the first strand of RNA, and then eventually there will be a DMV, what was it? Dual membrane something where it makes its own shit and everything. And then it goes and it makes its bullshit or whatever. Because I think the negative and everything is printed inside of that vestibule? All of that is printed in there. I don't think the negative is printed from the human ribosome. I think the negative is printed from the non-structural proteins that SARS-CoV-2 codes for, I believe. I don't know how much this matters, if I want to care about this that much. Polyproteins are what they're called. After the double membrane vesicles, is that a real word? That doesn't sound like a real word. Occurs in the endoplasmic reticulum membranes, creating a space in the cell for viral processing to begin. I think that's what the polyproteins are, the ones that print out genomic sense RNAs converted into antisense form of genomic and subgenomic RNAs, then antisense form is then converted back into the sense form of genomic and subgenomic RNAs. And then the structural and accessory proteins are made, and then it's all fucked together into a virion that goes and fucks the rest of your cells. And then vesicle. Okay. Okay, where are we? Sorry, hold on. Destiny, the virus's RNA is used as a template to make the complementary RNA. Instead of going from DNA to RNA, since there's no DNA, COVID is a positive sense RNA virus, which has to go from RNA to complementary RNA to protein. A negative sense RNA can use its RNA genome. My understanding is the way that SARS-CoV-2 works is that the positive sense RNA strand is not used to print a complementary RNA, but rather that positive sense strand is used to produce, it prints off a whole bunch of other things like polyproteins, and then those things go inside of the double membrane vesicle, and then inside of that, the polyproteins come together. No, not polyproteins. The polyproteins. Those are the things that come together, and then they print off the negative. Wait, fuck! I got it backwards. Oh, okay. Never mind. All right. Okay. Because that was something that I didn't know initially. Because I just assumed that. Yeah, I don't know. wild. But I think the virus producing factories are first created by the human host ribosome, and then the negatives and everything are printed off by the polypeptides that are translated from the original positive sense RNA from the virus. Okay, sorry. Fuck. I don't care. Okay. No, you're right. I think it's correct. Okay. The RNA is entangled within the okay. Viral RNA is translated by ribosomes into the host cells, in the host cell to form proteins. That's what translation means. Okay. This is done in groups of 3 nucleotides at a time called codons. Codons? As there are 4 possible nucleotides at each position, there are 64 possible codons, each of which yields a particular amino acid. The chain of amino acids constitutes a protein. Codon. Wait, why does my DG shut dead over here? The fuck? Okay, whatever. Vesicle sounds like the name of a new orbiter. Shut the fuck up. The chain of amino acids constitutes a protein with particular chemical properties of the amino acids, causing it to fold into a shape suitable for that protein's specific function. The assignment of an amino acid to each possible codon is called the genetic code. Humans have 20 different amino acids, so there exist multiple codons that yield the same amino acid, and synonymous mutations which change the nucleotide sequence without changing the amino acid sequence are possible. The genetic code is not random. Mutations tend to be synonymous, and non-synonymous mutations tend to yield amino acids with similar chemical properties, or at least more often than one would expect from a randomly designed genetic code. A synonymous mutation is a nucleotide sequence change that doesn't change the amino acid. Okay. Figure 2. Photograph of the west half of Huanan Seafood Market, looking west from Jinhao Road, with the east half of HSM behind the viewer. Notice that the end of each alley opens up directly to the air, with 2 storefronts between each alley. Busy street would have slowed foot traffic between west and east HSM. I believe this image was captured after HSM was closed down, but before the current barriers were installed. Photograph from Baidu Street View. Okay. As host cells do not contain the cellular machinery to replicate RNA, the first 2/3 of the viral genome, called the open reading frame, 1AB, encodes 16 different proteins involved in the viral replication and assembly process. True, okay. Can't we replicate RNA in our... Can't we do that? I don't know anything about what happens in the nucleus of a cell now. I thought we can make more RNA. Shit, I could be wrong. I don't know. Yes, no. Good job, chat. Humans can't generally go from RNA to RNA. They can go from DNA to RNA. Okay. Called the open reading frame. Okay, encodes 16 different proteins involved in the viral replication and assembly process. The rest of the protein encodes the 4 structural proteins: spike, envelope, membrane, and nucleocapsid, as well as accessory proteins. The envelope and membrane proteins are components of the viral envelope, while the large spike protein protrudes outwards from the envelope, making it the first point of contact with other objects. The bumpy texture of the spike proteins resembles a crown, giving coronaviruses their name. The spike protein plays an important role in the infection process as it binds to a matching receptor in the membrane of the target cells. In SARS-CoV-2, the spike binds to the ACE2 receptor found throughout the human body, including lungs and intestines. After binding, the spike is then cleaved into two pieces, which for reasons inscrutable to me, facilitates merging the virus envelope with the cellular membrane, and so delivering the genome into the cell. This cleaving process will become relevant after we've introduced the phylogenetics of coronaviruses. True. Absolutely true and based. Okay. I think I can explain this process. Maybe he'll get into it again later too, but. Phylogeny of coronaviruses. As viruses evolve over time, they can be organized into a phylogenetic tree, showing how closely related one virus is to another. For example, coronaviruses are just one branch of nidoviruses. Here we have our pictures. This is of the whole virion, which is the name for the whole virus, right? The spike proteins are the protruding guys, the purple shit and the yellow shit are the membrane and the envelope proteins, and then the N nucleocapsid is the protein that covers the genomic, the single strand of RNA. B. What the fuck is this? RBD binds cell receptor DPP4. I think that was the, I'm not going to remember this. DPP4 is the receptor that is bound by, it's another coronavirus. It's not SARS-CoV-2. Is it SARS-1? Oh, it's MERS. I think it's MERS-CoV. I wonder why he included MERS here. HR2 and HR1. I'm guessing that these are the names of some of the structures of MERS. It's probably a little bit different, but I guess, okay. Binding-induced conformational change, 6 helical bundle, 6 HP formation, and then membrane fusion. Okay, whatever. And then this is the sequence of nucleotides and everything they encode for. And SARS-CoV-2, the virus. N-N-E-S. I don't know what this stupid shit is. Okay. Okay. Oh, he says MERS here too. The structure of a coronavirus, how it enters target cells and its genome. Depicted is MERS. Oh, does MERS have the exact same structural proteins and everything? Oh, maybe this whole thing is MERS. How close is MERS? I forget. I included it here in my taxonomy though. Oh, it's just a neighboring subgenus. So beta coronaviruses. The 3 subgenuses I have are MB-coviruses, SARS-CoV-viruses, which includes SARS-CoV-2, and then MERB-coviruses, which includes MERS. Okay. The structure of a coronavirus, how it enters target cells and its genome. Depicted as MERS, a close relative to SARS-CoV-2. Note that SARS-CoV-2 binds to ACE2 instead of DPP4. The spike protein consists of 2 subdomains, S1 and S2, which are separated as part of the cell entry process. Diagram is figure 2 from 35. Okay. Oh. All right, where was I? For example, coronavirus is just one branch of nidoviruses. Coronaviruses are divided into 4 subgroups named alpha coronaviruses through delta coronaviruses. I think it goes up to like gamma now. I think there's 2 more or something, aren't there? Not to be confused with the variants of SARS-CoV-2, also named after Greek letters. Oh, I confused this at first. Beta coronaviruses are divided further into 4 subgroups labeled. Oh, never mind. I'm wrong. Never mind. Forget what I just said about that other thing. I just mixed that up. So beta coronaviruses, these I think have 4 subgenuses, not the coronaviruses. Beta coronaviruses are divided into 4 subgroups labeled lineages A through D, not to be confused with lineages A through B of SARS-CoV-2. And then lineage B, the SARS-CoV-viruses, SARS-like beta coronaviruses, include both SARS-CoV-1, the virus which caused the 2002-2003 SARS outbreak, and SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19. The genomes of SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2 are 80% identical. In total, there are 7 known coronaviruses that cause diseases in humans. 2 mild alpha coronaviruses, HCoV229E and HCoV-NL63. 2 mild beta coronaviruses of lineage A, MBCoviruses, HCoV-OC43 and HCoV-HQ1, and 2 human SARB coronaviruses, or SARB-CoViruses, mentioned above, and the deadly MERS virus of lineage C, MRBCoviruses. While MERS is only weakly transmissible between humans, and most MERS cases are in Saudi Arabia, where it is believed to have transmitted many times to humans from camels, extended human-human transmission chains have been observed extending into other countries. The wild virus most closely related to SARS-CoV-2 is Banal 2052, a sample collected. I should do this, -2052. A sample collected from a bat dropping in Laos with 96.8% nucleotide identity, or a disagreement of about 1,000 nucleotides. I should have this somewhere. Uniqueness of, I don't know what argument this would go under, but so Banal 2052 is a SARS-CoV-virus sampled in Laos from a bat dropping with 96.8% nucleotide similarity to SARS-CoV-2. Closer than any ancestor we found for SARS-CoV-1, right? I think. As many nucleotide phylogenetic tree, phylogenetic tree of selected beta coronaviruses inserts at right show lineage B, SARS-CoV-viruses, and lineage C, MRBCoviruses. The former includes both SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2, but this diagram was made in 2018. Losers. Diagram is figure 9 from source 17. As many nucleotide substitutions are synonymous, there's about 99% amino acid identity, and the time to most recent common ancestor might be about 20 to 30 years ago. However, different parts of the SARS-CoV-2 genome are closest to different wild viruses, and recombination appears to play a role in the genetic history of SARS-CoV-viruses, complicating efforts to reconstruct a phylogeny. In order for recombination to occur, 2 RNA viruses need to infect the same cell. That's the only way it can happen, right? And then what, the RNA gangbangs like a polypeptide, or gangbangs like a ribosome or whatever? I don't understand how you do half readings of... How do you do half readings of a strand of RNA and then read or half translations, I guess? You know what? Okay, never mind. Fuck that. SARS-CoV-2 itself, wasn't that the visual where the knot stopped readings? Yeah, but that just paused it for a little bit. It didn't allow for another RNA to come in and be read. SARS-CoV-2 itself divides into many subgroups, like the flu virus. One often finds that newer variants displace older variants, causing notational difficulties as the phylogenetic tree divides further and further. It was for this reason that the Pango notation was developed. For example, the Pango notation B.1.1.529 refers to the root of the Omicron variant. The very earliest division of the SARS-CoV-2 phylogeny is into two parts called lineages A and B in the Pango notation. Lineage B would contain the highly successful D614 gene mutation, meaning that the aspartic acid D at location 614 of the spike protein, 70 nucleotides from the FCS, is replaced by glycine G. The D614 G mutation first became prominent in Italy in March 2020, and I believe is directly related to the worldwide March May peak many countries observed. Lineage B has now completely displaced lineage A. Comstered and dumpstered. Fresh Trump Epstein clip.
Urge people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled? Why do you think that is?
Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake.
Russia
Gate.
Russia
Would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
Good one. Okay, this is, wait. Remember, the way the protein shifts at the RBD, it forces a cleave during transcription. Is that true? I don't know if it forces a cleave or a cut. Cleaving is not the same as cutting off. That's a huge thing that I had to learn. If I would have had like a rudimentary background in like microbiology or molecular biology, I think I would have just learned that. It took me a long time to figure that one out. And by figure it out, I mean somebody fucking told me. Cleaving and cutting are not the same thing when it comes to these things. Ugh. Okay, background, the pandemic. What's the difference? I don't know enough about molecular bonds to tell you. All I can say is that something to do with covalent and non-covalent bonds, but I guess like these moleculars can all be like, I'm guessing like huge chains of molecules, like they're multiple molecules, but it's like one huge molecule. And when you cleave it, you sever the actual, I guess, covalent bonds between the molecules, but they still have like weak non-covalent bonds that hold them together. But the nice thing about cleaving something is that once it's cleaved, it's still holding together, but once it like gets to a thing, it can very easily move to the next stage. So like for instance, with the way that this took me so fucking long to understand, Jesus Christ. So when the SARS-CoV-2 virus is manufactured in the cell, okay, one of the things that happens is the S1 and S2 boundary are cleaved by furin. That's what that furin cleavage site. It's cleaved inside of the cell, and it's in the Golgi apparatus compartment, or it's like an intermediate partner. It's in an intermediate department. It's in an intermediate compartment between the Golgi apparatus and the endoplasmic reticulum. There's a formal name for it. It's literally called like Golgi apparatus endoplasmic reticulum intermediate compartment. I think they abbreviated 6 letters. What it means is when the furin protease, which is an enzyme in your cell that eats shit, when it cleaves that part of the spike protein between the S1 and the S2 part, when it cleaves it, it doesn't cut it off. It just kind of like fucks it up a little bit. So they're very weakly held together, not by a covalent bond, but through non-covalent bonds, whatever the fuck that is. I guess love and peace, or I guess hatred and destruction, since it's a virus. But what that means is, so like when the whole package, the whole virion, when it exits the cell, as it floats around, okay, looking for some other thing to fucking ejaculate into, what happens is when the spike protein, which is divided into S1 and S2, when the spike protein binds to a human cell, okay, when the S1 part binds to ACE2, ordinarily, what you would have to do is, if these things are all one giant molecule, just because it's bound to the cell, that doesn't mean that it can be ready to do its next stage to fuck itself into the cell, right? If it's not pre-cleaved, when the spike protein is bound to the cell, it has to wait for furin, that protease, to come around and find it and then cleave to separate that S1 and S2 subunit. But there's not a lot of furin that's like presented on the surface of a cell, because furin is mainly found in the Golgi apparatus, right? So if you're waiting all day for that shit, you're gonna be here forever waiting for this guy to come around and cut the shit up. But if you pre-cleave it, then what happens is when the S1 subunit binds to that ACE2 connector, immediately there is a mechanical drive that's driven by I think it's the fusion peptide, the FP is what they abbreviate it to, and there's a mechanical change, because it's like in a kind of a stable condition, but once the S1 subunit binds, there's a mechanical change that happens from that S2 subunit after the ACE2 thing binds, after ACE2 binds with the S1 thing. And the mechanical change is only driven by, I believe it's the enzyme that tempers 2 enzyme. Jesus. The tempers 2 enzyme is very common in the cell, and it's found fucking everywhere. It's like all over the place. So let me try to summarize this. If the virus, if SARS-CoV-2 sticks to a cell, okay, and it's not pre-cleaved, it has to wait all day for a furin to wander around and finally cleave it, and then that gets it ready for the tempers 2 to come and basically interact with the S2 thing to drive the virus into the cell. But if it's pre-cleaved, then all it has to do is, once the S1 subunit binds to ACE2, it just needs that tempers 2 to come and instantly grant it access to the cell. There's way more tempers 2 than there is furin on the surface of a cell. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Okay, Jesus. That's why. So that's what the pre-cleaving means, or priming it means. When it says that furin cleaves it in the production part of the cell, the reason why it's primed is because it gains access to the cell a lot easier, because it doesn't have to get cleaved for the first time before the tempers 2 enzyme can come and cleave the S2 subunit, whatever. Okay. And what does it do when it binds pre-cleaved? If it binds pre-cleaved, then it has to either wait for a furin to come by, which is kind of rare because it's not presented on the surface of the cell, or it can take a longer time. Eventually, the cell will suck in the entire thing via a process called endocytosis. And when the cell sucks in the entire virus, it takes a lot longer, but eventually there will be another protease called cap the SID or whatever, and it will come by and it will cleave the S1, S2 area, and then I believe the Tempers 2 will come and cut the at S2, at the S2 prime site, and then the viral fusion will begin. But it takes, I think the endocytosis process, I think takes a lot longer, and it's not as efficient. But if you pre-cleave the spike protein at S1, S2 at that FCS site, then the virus can go and fuck the cell like way, way, way faster. But I think those are the two main ways that it gains entry into a cell. Here's a tricky question to test your knowledge. Why doesn't COVID just make the spike protein in 2 weakly held parts to begin with? Why is cleavage necessary at all? I never found the answer. I never looked for the answers. I thought about this actually, because I was like, why doesn't it just make it pre-cleave? My guess is because when you are creating proteins, you can't, like ribosomes and polyproteins don't have the manufacturing capability of just cleaving like parts of the thing. If you're printing off proteins and you're printing off chains and molecules, all you can do is just print off huge sections of things. Like a ribosome or a polypeptide can't cleave shit. So you either have to you have to abuse some other part of the cell to do it, basically, I think. Cleaving is by definition cutting. It's just the mechanisms can get funky and additional bonds can... Well, sure, I guess. Okay, sorry. Maybe in a strictly like molecular biology sense, maybe to you that makes sense. But when I'm thinking cutting, I'm thinking like it's gone completely, but it's not. When you cleave the S1 and S2 subunit, it actually is incredibly detrimental to the virus for the S1 subunit to be shed completely. Because if you shed the S1 subunit completely, it's very hard, like it just has it takes a lot longer for that S2 subunit for the cell to bind organically. The proteins, the S2 protein can present itself on the surface of the cell and it can drive cell-to-cell fusion with neighboring cells. But if you lose the S1 subunit, you lose a huge part. Like SARS-CoV-2 wouldn't exist, I don't think, if it shedding is the term that I see in the literature used for when the S1 subunit is just completely gone. But the cleavage, it's still held together just by very weak. I don't know when it says non-covalent bonds. I don't know what the fuck that means, but somehow it's kept together, I guess. But I don't know how. Okay. You can have instructions for separate subunits, but it's very common for viruses to express their whole genome in a single ORF, open reading frame. Common reasons to cleave after translation rather than translate. Separate subunits can include difficulties folding the subunits separately. Yeah, the problem, Cynical Brit, is I think the proteins and everything are very, very, very sensitive to structure. So if you were to print off one thing and then just make a second piece, you might not be able to connect them because of how everything folds and molests itself. And like printing off like a whole thing and then cleaving one section might be possible, but printing off 2 separate sections and connecting them might be like impossible, or almost impossible, I think. Okay. Correct. They don't always fold independently. Yeah. Yeah. And protein folding is like a complicated thing that can get weird too. So like I asked this question the other day, do different nucleotides impact a protein if you just switch out one nucleotide, but you're printing the exact same amino acids? And the answer is actually, I think, yes. Because even if you have the exact same nucleotides, even if you have the exact same amino acids, different nucleotides can print at different speeds. And it might be that some nucleotides might take a slightly longer amount of time to process, even if you're printing the exact same amino acid, and the extra bit of time allotted to the newly formed protein might give it time to fold while it's taking a little bit more time printing the amino acid based on the underlying nucleotide, even if it's printing the exact same amino acid. But that's, yeah, this is fucking AIDS shit. Okay. Beetle 52. Okay, we have that there. In next strain, lineage A is called 19B, as it was the second branch to be identified in 2019, and the root of lineage B is called 19A. They might also different amino acids have different affinities and interactions with water and other charges. I don't know anything about that, so I have no idea. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just don't know anything. My like microbiology and all that knowledge is very, very, very poor. Like I have like, yeah. The real meme to sound sort of smart is claiming that all proteins are just metastable and they really want to collapse into nasty amyloid aggregates. I see that metastable word used a lot with the S2 subunit, I think, that it exists in a metastable configuration, and that once, I think, tempers 2 comes and cleaves the S2 prime subunit, once that cleavage happens, the metastability collapses, and then that's when the mechanical insertion of the RNA is driven by the fusion peptide of the S2 subunit, I think. Maybe we'll get it out later. We'll see. Okay. Okay. Through clean, okay. Do we care about this? In summer of 2020, I invested some time into tracking the progression of D614G, but never finished any work as it was eventually obviated by the second wave that came that fall. Due to the high mutation rate of viruses, a phylogenetic tree can be created with some reliability down to the level of individual illnesses. Samples of SARS-CoV-2 collected in 2019 December and 2020 January have been sequenced, and some are available in GISAID, Genome Investigation Sexual AIDS. I don't know what does it stand for. The fuck does it? I don't know what it stands for. I'm just retarded, I guess. Okay. Global Initiative on Sharing All Influenza Data. Oh, cringe. The flu? WHO. WHO mega lol. Facilities assembling them into a phylogenetic tree of the very earliest COVID cases. Though the results are not without dispute, lineages A and B each clearly form a tree with a single unambiguous root, from which there are many branches called a polytomy, or polytomy. Polytomy. That's what we said, right? It was polytomy, right? These 2 roots differ from each other in exactly 2 nucleotides. The root of lineage A, has the sequence T8782, C28144, abbreviated T/C, and the root of lineage B has the sequence C8782 and T28144. These refer to specific places on the genome, and then the letters are the nucleotides that exist at these positions. Note that the mutation at 8782 is synonymous. Several early samples have been collected that may exhibit the CC or TT pattern. The phylogenetic relationship between the roots of the A and B lineages is not immediately clear without further analysis. We can summarize the above with a phylogenetic tree. Coronaviruses. Oh, cute. It almost looks like the one I have, which I imagine it should. So we have beta coronaviruses are the genus. MB-coviruses, these are subgenuses. SARS-CoV-viruses. And then of the SARS-CoV-viruses, you've got SARS-CoV-1, Banal 2052, SARS-CoV-2, and then SARS-CoV-2 has a lineage A, which is now extinct, and a lineage B. Both of these theoretically came from the market in 2 different spillover events. And then we also have a subgenus called Merbicoviruses, which comes from MERS. I don't know why lineage is used so often here. They need new words. Not good. Not good, dipshits. Someone in YouTube chat said, do viruses have a wildly diverse way of functioning at this molecular level? I have no fucking idea. My guess is like the mechanics of everything are probably all the same. Enzymes digest stuff. There are ways, gates to get entry into cells. Stuff gets processed. Like everything has a function. And viruses just kind of fuck with that. Why are there any viruses at all, dude? It's not cool. It's kind of cringe. Okay. Oh god. The furin cleavage site. Oh no. No, actually, I'm sorry. I should, even with the little I know, yeah, some viruses work way differently. Some just like get into the cytoplasm of the cell, outside of the nucleus, and they do things. So like this is an RNA virus, and it only works outside the cell. But some viruses gain entry into the nucleus of a cell, and then the viruses will, through reverse transcription, is that real? I don't understand all the, I don't remember, or I haven't studied it in depth enough, but they will write themselves into your DNA. So like HIV writes itself into your, are they CD04 cells? Which are cells that are part of your immune system. CD4 T cells, maybe? So when these cells undergo mitosis, do these cells like undergo mitosis and then they have HIV in them? That would be crazy. That would suck shit, bro. That shit is AIDS. Okay. Furin cleavage site. Well, most of the disagreements between SARS-CoV-2 and Banal 2052 and other bat coronaviruses are point mutations. There is one important larger difference. Recall that when the spike protein S binds to the ACE2 receptor on a human target cell to facilitate fusion with the cell, the spike protein must be cut into two subregions called S1 and S2. In SARS-CoV-2 infections in humans, this cutting process is performed by the furin enzyme. So it's cut, but it's not like totally cut. It's just like lightly cut. Like when you, like perforated. Can we say perforated? I don't know. Probably not. Be careful. In SARS-CoV-2 infections in humans, this cutting process is performed by the furin enzyme. Furin recognizes proteins with an amino acid sequence of the form RXXR, or especially RRXR. Here, X stands for any amino acid, and R stands for arginine. Furin recognizes proteins with an amino acid sequence of RXXR, or especially, we'll say it, especially RRXR. Here, X stands for, okay. Cutting them. Thus, any such amino acid sequence is referred to as a furin cleavage site. The proper functioning of SARS-CoV-2, therefore, necessitates that the boundary between S1 and S2 is an FCS. Indeed. Indeed. CAG, ACT, CAG, ACT, AAT, TCT, CCT, CGG, CG, GCC. Oh my fucking God, it's it! You guys recognize it, right? I read them. It's a goddamn furin cleavage site. Haplotype networks of early sequences of Wuhan, one viral genome that carried a C to T variant at site 8782, carried the reference genome connected the SA and LB major lineages, and this genome was sampled from Wuhan in late January of 2020. Okay. Figure 5. Unrooted phylogenetic tree of early SARS-CoV-2 samples collected in Wuhan. Each circle represents a collection of samples with identical genome. The size of the circle is the number of samples, and the colors of the circle is the date of illness onset for these people. For those people, bluer circles are earlier illnesses, and redder circles are later. The number of tick marks on a line indicates the number of nucleotides difference between two genomes. The left cluster are lineage B cases, and the right cluster are lineage A cases, with a few ambiguous cases in between. The middle arrow identifies the first known case, a Mr. Chen, with onset 2019 December 8th, although he may become ill on December 12th. Technically, this is a haplotype network, not a phylogenetic tree, in that it shows only the genetic similarity of different cases without any attempt to identify which are ancestral/related to each other. It is possible for distantly related samples to have genomes or to have similar genomes by chance, as the same mutations can arise more than once independently. Cute. Okay. Origin. I should have like first cases. Is it really Mr. Chen? December 8th, 2019, Mr. Chen. Let's have that there. Why am I clicking this? Forsen, that's why I clicked it. Okay. Shown is an excerpt from the nucleotide sequence and corresponding amino acid sequence for Wuhan Hu1, the reference genome for SARS-CoV-2, collected in 2019, December 25th. The RRAR subsequence constitutes an FCS. Holy fucking Christ. That's Jason Furin. My fucking God. While SARS-CoV-2 passes between humans primarily through respiratory droplets, this is not the case for bat coronaviruses, which are spread through droppings, poop, and therefore must survive the gastrointestinal tract. This creates a different life cycle for virus replication, and consequentially, an FCS may be evolutionarily harmful. We can compare SARS-CoV-2 to the closest known wild virus, banal, anal, or bane, 2052, at this location. QTQTNS RSVAS. Okay. I have marked the 3 point mutations in this section with lowercase letters. Each is synonymous. There are about 1,000 point mutations in the 30,000 nucleotides. More notably, however, is that banal 2052 is 12 nucleotides shorter here, as it is missing the sequence TCCT, CGG, CGG, GC. Holy shit. I should write this here. Banal 2052 is missing the FCS that SARS-CoV-2 has. Bats typically transmit viruses from their fecal droppings. FCS would likely be harmful to the life cycle of this virus if present in a bat. Format of the debate. Root claim was created to demonstrate the usefulness of a particular methodology for analyzing complicated questions, where there exists abundant lines of circumstantial evidence both for and against any particular hypothesis. After systematically evaluating each piece of evidence, they can be integrated into a gestalt that gives a final level of confidence we can have in each hypothesis. I refer to this technique as Bayesian reasoning or Bayesian computation, which will be discussed in the next section. However, root claim are far from the only ones to use Bayesian reasoning, and I believe they claim to distinguish themselves from others in the details of how they evaluate the evidence. In any case, I agree with their critiques of other methodologies, or frequently lack thereof, and that most people who get the right answer do so more by chance than not. This debate is the first organized by root claim of hopefully multiple on different topics. To be clear, as a series of 3 spoken debate sessions totaling 20 hours and various written supplements. I'm one of 2 judges deciding independently with the outcome of the debate determined by the average of our decisions. I assessed the debate structure designed by root claim to be very fair and not create any advantage for them, and it was clear that SAR consciously acted in good faith throughout. To me, the debate felt more like a collaboration of 4 people working together to seek the truth than an adversarial contest. It is rare to see contentious issues worked out in such a productive manner between people acting in good faith. As I find that both parties argued in good faith, and there were no significant violations of the spirit of the debate rules, my evaluation is based solely on the arguments as presented at an object level, or my best interpretation thereof. Peter identified and criticized a diversity of lab leak theories put forth by other parties, but these had no bearing on root claim's theory. Statements were evaluated independently of the credibility of other parties who assert them. I did not attempt to keep score of which side made more factual errors or changed the argument more often. Each claim was given independent credulity. Neither side was laden with the burden of proof. While in other contexts it might be appropriate and fair to dismiss arguments a priori for rhetorical reasons, for example, as a defense against techniques like sea-lining or gish-golloping, here my sole concern is whose theory is best supported by the evidence. Per the rules of the debate, I am to evaluate the relative likelihood of the 2 hypotheses advanced. Root claims claim that the SARS-CoV-2 outbreak was due to gain-of-function laboratory research, and Peter's challenge that it was the result of a natural spillover from wildlife without laboratory involvement. Note that alternatively, root claim suggests that the insert is CCT, and there was a 4th point mutation. All right. Only the information provided through the debate material, and references therein may be considered. No prior beliefs or private research of my own can be used, as this would deny the participants opportunity to identify flaws and rebut such arguments. Insofar as was reasonable within the constraints of time, I attempted to challenge each participant on any claims they made that appeared suspect, so that they had opportunity to bolster their argument or substitute it with another. Fortunately, time is limited and only so many rounds of argument and counterargument can be sustained. Eventually, one must reach a decision. I have laid out here in some detail how I reached the decision I did, though in view of the considerable volume already written on this subject, I do not imagine this will be sufficient to compel anyone to change their mind. Ouch. Doubtlessly, the participants of the debate will have rebuttals to what I write that disagrees with them, and perhaps I may wish to revise this in the future, but at least for the purposes of the debate, it is finished. Okay. Okay. About my foremost goal in this document is to give the best possible code for pirate software. What? Is to give the best possible account for the origins of COVID as I understand them, and only incidentally explain how I reached my decision. Therefore, to avoid leaving glaring holes in explanatory passages, I have occasionally looked up minor details. Yikes, looking up details of minors. Oh, Epstein! For example, to fill out the background section or section B. Insofar as possible, I have restricted myself to sources directly cited by the debate parties, though I may have inadvertently used a few indirect citations. Most of this information had no bearing on the decision. The one piece of information I found that did was relegated to Appendix C. Wow. In Section 7, I present an uncomfortably quantitative analysis of the 2 conflicting theories in my affirmative conclusion for which is more likely based on the information from the debate. However, it felt unsatisfying to say why I believed the arguments for one theory without also saying why I failed to be persuaded by the arguments against it. The majority of this document, particularly sections 3.1, 3.2, 4.5, and A, contain detailed criticisms of arguments presented by root claim, identifying where I believe those arguments to be flawed. Those refutational passages are not part of my affirmative conclusion, so I have taken greater liberty in the use of complicated models or analysis. For the affirmative analysis, I have eschewed such complexities. Best to keep it simple and pay a small price in accuracy rather than risk large model error. Eschew.
We eschewed manicures, makeup.
Inventions. He eschewed making money from it. He was already independently.
Is that Jeb Bush? What the fuck?
Wealthy. We're talking.
In which you've eschewed your previous career as a comedian, and
they've eschewed maps, compasses, and other.
Eschewed. Fuck. Sorry. Introduction to Bayesian computation. Suppose you have two exclusive events, A and B, equals, what's this barb thing mean? How do you pronounce it? What do you say? Not. That's what the little down thing means? Why are there like 27 ways to write not? Like I've seen like the double equals or equals slash or... Okay, suppose you have two exclusive events, A and B equals not A, you wish to distinguish. Unfortunately, we cannot observe them directly. Instead, we make some sequence of other observations, O1, O2, On. How do you say O1, O2, or do you say O sub 1, O sub 2? You just say O1, O2, On, right? O1, okay. In one of our observations, O1 were, say, incompatible with A, then we would be done. By simple deductive reasoning, we could say A implies not O1, O1, therefore, not A. In probability theory, an event is a statement which has a probability of being true. We assume events follow certain rules, such as if X and Y are events, then there is no event called X. And then like, is this disunion Y? Or is this a union? Or and? Oh, fuck me, dude. Ooh. Intersection? Intersect. Okay. Such as if X and Y are events, then there is an event called X and Y, or X intersect Y, representing that both X and Y are true, satisfying P, which is in this case probability of X intersect Y or X and Y being true, is less than or equal to the probability of X being true. Okay. Oh, because X and Y being true could never be true more often than just one of those individual events being true, right? So it's always going to be equal or less than, right? I think. Okay. Given these prevalences, is it likely that the test result is a false positive? Well, this chapter is on Bayes' theorem, so yes. Sometimes if you understand Bayes' theorem well enough, you don't need it. Fucking epic! That was an epic meme. Instead, each of our observations are consistent with either A or B, but critically, not equally so. We measure the degree of consistency with the conditional probabilities. P, the probability of OI given A, and the probability of OI given B from this information, it is a simple application of Bayes' theorem to compute the probability of A given O1 and repeated application to get the probability of A given O1 and O2 and all the way to On. There is nothing deeper to performing Bayesian computation than repeated use of Bayes' theorem, but with a little organization, we can gain better understanding of the process and be less likely to make mistakes. First, we can build a table of the information we know. Prior, probability of A, probability of B. Observation 1, probability of observation 1 given A, observation 1 given B, observation blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm going to know this. Virology, yeah. Wait, Anthrax, are you the guy who emailed me, or? I got the luckiest. I'm the luckiest girl at the dance. Yes? Wait, no, are you the guy? How do you even know yes? How do you know? Is your first name start with a G? GB. Oh, you're the guy. Oh, cool. Thanks. Hi. I already doxed you though in my chat. Assuming this guy's not lying to me. This guy says he's a virologist doing his PhD on SARS-CoV-2. How lucky am I? By the time he's done with it, we're going to have SARS-CoV-3. Okay. Because we'd be interested in the event that, that all the observations are jointly true, O1 and O2 and O3, rather than only one or another of them being true. We have to use the probability of each observation conditioned on the previous ones also happening. If our observations are independent of each other, then this is unnecessary, as P, the probability of O3 given A and O1 and O2 equals the probability of O3 given A in this case. Is A supposed to mean something special here besides O1 or O2? Am I retarded? Wait. Oh, the probability of A is the prior. Okay. I don't know why I said okay, like I understood that. Okay, so the probability of O3 given A, so this is some observation. The probability of your observation given A, why do you swap those? A and B are priors. When you say that A and B are priors, is A or B just like a statement? Is that what we mean when we say that? So like A and B could be like gay or straight, right? This is just Bayes' theorem. I like how you say that like I learned or remembered this. I never took a stats class. I only took a class on fucking your mom. A and B are not priors, they are events. The probability of A and the probability of B are priors. Okay, so we can say that A is gay and B is straight. Our prior is the probability of being gay and the probability of being straight. So if we say the probability of O3 is some observation of having fabulous hair, given that you're straight and you have a purse and you listen to gay music. I don't even know what the stereotypes are anymore. Oh, but for all observations, if you just put the event, if it's a given, then it would always be that probability because that's your event, right? I think that made sense, right? Okay. Given, because given you the actual event. All right. Okay. In this case, next, let's use the definition of conditional probability. Whoa. Okay. Okay. So the probability of A equals the probability of A. Okay. So the chance of you being gay equals the chance of you being gay. Okay. The probability of you being gay with the probability of you being gay and having observation 1, O1, equals the probability of you being gay times the probability of O1, observation 1, given A. Hold on. Give me a minute. Let me just sit with this bad boy for 1 second, okay? A given that probably times yes, okay. This makes sense, right? Let's say that observation 1, hold on, let me just plug numbers in here to make sure I'm getting this. Okay. Let's say there's a 50% chance of you being gay, all right? Let's say that if we can observe somebody having big dick-sucking lips, big DSLs, that's a 100% chance that they're gay, all right? So the probability of you being gay and having what is the probability of gay? No, wait, this thing means given. No. That means and. The probability of you being gay and having big old dick sucking lips. If gay is 50%, do we say 50% of people are gay? And then the DSL is 100%, right? So this would come out, we'd expect it to be 50%, right? Is the same as the probability of A, which is 50%, times the probability of observation 1 is the dick sucking lips given you are gay. And if you are gay, there's a 100% chance that you have DSL. What if we say getting fucked in the ass is only 50% gay? So if 50% of gay people were fucked in the ass, then it'd be 50 times 50 would be 25%. Okay, I think I'm understanding this, right? I think, okay. So then so the probability of event A and O1 and O2. This is all just like Bayes' theorem? Well, at least we'll know this, I guess. Next time some fucking guy brings this up. Probability of A and O1 and O2 equals, it's just the probability of A and O1 times the probability of observation 2 given A and observation 1. And then it just goes on down the line, right? Okay. So this is the probability of event A happening and observation 1 and observation 2 and observation 3. And you would calculate that with the probability of A and the observation 1 and 2 times probability of observation 3 happening given this, right? Yes. Equals, okay, all right. This is just basic probability theory. Bayes' theorem hasn't been outlined yet. Oh, cringe. Okay, well. Okay. Thus, the cumulative products we get by just multiplying down the columns of the previous table are the joint probabilities. I don't know what this 1 means up top. Prior is probability of A, observation 1, observation 2, observation 3. Okay. Note that mathematically there's nothing distinguishing the prior probability from any of our observations. The choice of what you call information, of what information to call prior versus observation, it's just a matter of convention. You can think of prior as the null or trivial observation, how much you should update your probabilities based on not making any observations at all. In the calculations by root claim, they treat the prior slightly differently from the other observations, resulting in needing to renormalize the probabilities at the end. Of course, this does not change the conclusions, only the order things are calculated in. We should interpret each row as telling us the relative probability of either of the hypotheticals, A and B, jointly with the cumulative observations. Initially, before making any observations, the prior probabilities of probability A and probability B sum to 1 because B equals not A. But and that means because if these are all possible events, then they have to sum to 1, I would imagine, right? But as we apply successive observations, the sum of each row will decrease and become smaller than 1. This residue probability, i.e. the amount by which, or in other words, the amount by which each row sums to less than 1, represents the chance of some hypothetical alternative in which at least one of the observations didn't happen. Ignore me, I'm stupid. This is Bayes' theory, just written out unconventionally. Way to go. Okay, what good has this done us? Well, our goal is to find the conditional probability, P, the probability of event A, given O1, all these observations. This is just equal to the fraction of the nth row that is in the first column. So the probability of A given some observations equals the probability of A and the observation divided by the probability of the observation, which is, okay. Indeed, all that matters is the ratio of the two columns. Probability of A given some observation equals 1 divided by 1 plus all of the, Jesus, we got fractions on fractions on fractions. Since the columns of the second table were found by just multiplying the columns of the first table, the ratio of the columns of the second table, or just the product of the ratio of the columns of the first table. Thus, we began with 8 pieces of data in the first table, but it turns out that all we needed was 4 pieces of data, supposing we can directly measure these ratios. Actually 7, because we knew P probability of A plus probability of B equals 1, so the first one only 1 data, 1. Indeed, frequently the ratio P observation 1 given A divided by P of the observation 1 given B, called the Bayes factor, is easier to measure than either P observation 1 given A or P observation 1 given B separately. In messy real-world scenarios, the probability of the event O1 might be wrapped up with many uncertain factors that have nothing to do with either A or B. Estimating P, the probability of O1 divided by A, requires assessing those relevant factors, but estimating the Bayes factor does not. Let me see if I can recite this. Okay, the reason why, okay, so the question is, why would it be easier to measure the ratio than the actual individual probabilities? Because it might be easier to tell how often a particular observation happens with respect to A and B, like rationomically, that's not a real word. The amount of times it happens to A versus the amount of times it happens to B, so we can get a Bayes factor comparing the likelihood of it telling us whether or not it's more likely to be A or B, and that's easier to tell than the actual likelihood of just the probability of A or B, because then we would have to actually dive into all of those individual probabilistic factors, basically, right? I'm trying to think of how I would do a real-world example of this. So if we were to say the probability of brown hair given A or blonde hair given B. No, that didn't make any sense. The probability of brown hair given A or the probability of brown hair given B. A could be last name Baratheon, and B could be last name Lannister. So what's the probability of having brown hair if you're a Baratheon or a Lannister? Doing a ratio of that would theoretically be very easy, because you can just look at the likelihood of it occurring on both sides. But if you wanted to know the likelihood of just a Baratheon having brown hair or just a Lannister having brown hair, that could be very complicated, because you'd have to look at like the actual genetic factors and all that bullshit, and there'd be a lot more. You'd have to dive like a layer deeper, I think. Right? I think. Okay. Jesus. Okay. In extremes, where probabilities get very close to 0, 1, we can simplify matters further by taking logarithms everywhere. Why multiply when instead you can add? We then have logarithmic base factors. I don't know. I don't understand that at all. I don't know why that would be the case, but okay. Where I1 is the information contained in the first observation, with positive numbers informing us in favor of event A and negative numbers informing us against it. If the logarithm is base 2, then I1 has units of bits. Adding up each of our pieces of information gives, in extremes, okay. Given a new piece of information, I, n plus 1, we can simply add it to the sum that we have so far. This is called Bayesian updating. This result is called the conditional log odds of A. Log odds can in some situations be more intuitive than ordinary probability, especially for extreme probabilities. A log odds of 0 means a probability 50%, and positive log odds means an event that is more likely to happen than not. From the conditional log odds of A, we can compute the ordinary conditional probability. Okay, Jesus. Fuck my ass. How does this work in practice? Suppose some event of interest A has some probability being true. Start by computing the unconditional, i.e. prior log odds of A. We make a series of observations and assess for each observation how much information it provides in favor of A versus against it. We update our log odds of A by adding it to the information, positive or negative, from each observation. The result is the updated, i.e. conditional on the observations, log odds for A. And this gives us some number between 0 and 1, basically. So you never have to, and you're just adding it together, basically. Log odds base defined as we condition on the observations. Okay. Jesus Christ. Alternatively, we don't want to work with logarithms. Instead of adding up log odds, we can directly multiply probabilities. Okay. Let us work. Oh, wait. Log odds is negative infinity to positive infinity. 0 means that they're equal. Oh, that's why 0 is 50%. Okay, thank you. That makes more sense. That makes a little bit more sense. I updated my Bayes factor on understanding this to 0.001. Okay, we're on page 18. Don't worry. Let us work an example. Suppose you're hiring an engineer. Where's that for a person? They would come to say engineer can also mean a train conductor, by the way. Just kidding. Suppose you're hiring an engineer and you want to know their competency. A, at a particular skill. You make 3 independent observations. They did adequately on an interview assessing that skill. They did adequately on an interview assessing that skill. They have an obscure certificate for that skill, and they went to the University of Example, which is a good engineering program. Most candidates, whether competent or not, do not have that certificate, nor went to that university, so it is hard to assess the probability of those observations, but the relative probabilities, or Bayes factors, are easier to guess at. We have the probability of, okay, so observation 1, given their competency, The observation 1, given no competency. And then the Bayes and the log odds. Whew. Okay. So our prior of the probability of some competency given our observation, initial observation. What does OI count as? Hold on. Oh, it can be anything. So this is just what we're starting at. This is our prior. I'm a fucking retard. I'm an idiot. Sorry. So this is this would be P probability of. Is there a thing I can express? Is it just like PA? Am I fucking retarded? This is PA and this is not PA. Is that accurate to say? The probability of them being competent is 10%. The probability of them not being competent is 90%. The Bayes is 0.111 for reasons I don't completely understand. And the log odds are negative 2.2 for reasons I don't completely understand. But okay. The interview, now we know that they did adequately on an interview. And so, given that they're actually good at their job, we would expect them to do good on the interview. Wait, if they do good on the interview, this is the observation given A. So if they're good at the interview, wait. If they're competent, then they should give a good interview 40% of the time. I feel like I'm not saying that correctly. If they give an interview that's good, wait. Hold on, how are we phrasing that? This is the probability of them giving a good interview given that they are competent at their job. The probability of them giving a good interview given that they're competent, right? We would expect that to be 40% of the time. Does that make sense? So this would mean that just let me say this the other way. This would mean that just in this like independent, not conditional probability, no description, that would mean that we would expect that 60% of people that give good interviews aren't competent. Is that like a valid inference that you can draw from that or no? No. No. You can infer that 60% of competent people do poorly on the interview. You can infer the probability that you did not give an adequate interview given competency is 60%. How do I get three different, no, only 10% give good interviews with no competency? How did I just get three different answers? It means that 60% of people who are competent give bad interviews? Oh, YouTube chat is honing in way more on an answer here. Okay. And then this is saying that given a good interview, okay, wait. Given a good interview, oh, wait. If we observe a good interview, we expect to see that with 40% of good, competent people. Okay. And then observing a competent interview, we would expect to see that in 10% of incompetent people. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly? Given a good interview, we would expect to see that in 10% of non-competent people. That's it. Seems like you scrambled Asmongold's brain. You made him stop his red pill Tourette's. He was going to make a joke about Epstein touching kids, but stopped because he was afraid you would roast him. Good. Okay. And then Bayes is 4. I don't know what the fuck that means. Log odds of 1.39. I don't know what the fuck that means. Okay, and then we have certificate and OUE grad. I don't know why nothing is added here. Are these Bayes and log odds just given, or the Bayes is 0.4 divided by 0.1. Bayes is just the ratio. Bayes is the ratio. Okay, hold on. Oh, wait. So that means that for every 5 candidates that I interview, hold on. Oh my God, I just had a Bayes explosion. I just had a Bayesian explosion. Okay. So I might not be able to know the exact probabilities of how many of these people are competent or not, but I do know that for every 5 people that I interview, 4 of them will probably be good or competent. They'll have A, and 1 of them will not be. Is that correct? That's my Bayes ratio? 4 to 1, right? Okay. Let's go with that. Okay. I don't know how the log odds factor into this, or how what if that matters at all. Okay, certificate and OE, this is all blank. I don't know if that matters or not. I don't know why he left this blank. Don't know, don't care. Got it. Adding up the last column, we get a log odds of 0.065, or a probability of 51.6%, just barely above even odds that the candidate has that particular skill. Those are future observations. Okay. This example also illustrates a second important principle to understand. With Bayesian reasoning, it can be applied to any situation and always gives an answer, regardless of how appropriate the technique is for the application. I certainly hope no one involved in hiring candidates is using a calculation of this nature to help them make decisions, or help make that decision, or at least not with the same lack of care as I did above. One must pay close attention to potential problems. Did you account for all the available evidence? How accurate are your probabilities? How robust is your result to changes in the data? The messier and more real-world your situation, the easier it is to run afoul. Okay. Hypothesis testing and p-values. Bayes factors have a simple and direct relationship with p-values. Understanding this relationship may be beneficial. I had no idea how these things relate at all. So, as the reader may already be familiar, like all of you guys are, as the reader may already be familiar with the latter, due to their wide use in hypothetical testing, or conversely, the reader may find Bayes factors more intuitive and use it to gain comprehension for p-values. Someday I will more clearly explain the relation between Bayesian computation and hypothesis testing than I did here, so the reader may want to skip this section for now. Fuck. Okay. In hypothesis testing, one considers a null hypothesis, A, or more commonly, H0. We will mimic the notation from above, and the alternative hypothesis, B, is not A, usually denoted as HA. We ask, what is the probability of an observation or collection of observations, O, conditional on A, except now O is not a binary event, which happens or not, but some kind of numeric data. Bro, how much does this guy fucking... I don't care. We're reading it all, because fuck politics right now is boring. I don't care. This is more exciting than Trump. Okay. I don't give a fuck. All right, where are we? Suppose if A is true, that O is a real number, drawn from some known probability distribution. This is called a random variable. We will then, for every possible value x of O, if A is true, suppose O is a real number drawn, okay. For every possible value x of O, assign a corresponding value P, which lies in the range of 0 to 1, called the p-value. How to do this is the main source of confusion in hypothesis testing, as the process is subjective. A common choice is the map. X, what does the bow and arrow mean? What the fuck is this? How do you say this? Implies or goes to. Okay. Who did you get this document from? Can you post it? This is the judge's decision, Judge Eric, for the COVID debate. There you go. Okay. X is mapped to P. X is mapped to the probability of. X is mapped to the probability of O, which is some real number, as less than or equal to X. Easy. Okay. In other words, this says for one possible value of X, we assign it the p-value, that is the probability O would have been smaller than or equal to X. Say, for example, O is the number of heads your mom gives. Yeah. Is the number of heads in 100 coin flips. Okay. And our null hypothesis is that the coin is fair. If we observe X equals 40 coin flips, then the probability of observing 40 or fewer heads would have been 0.02844, which would be the p-value for the above choice of map. Wait. If we observe X equals 40 coin flips, then the probability of observing 40 or fewer heads would have been Are you just supposed to calculate this knowing that you can flip a coin and have two heads or tails? And then you do the, is that what the math is for this? Okay. So how do we choose the map? What we do is rank the possible values of O by how anomalous they are under the null hypothesis A, or equivalently by how well they support the alternative hypothesis B over A. For the 100 coin flips, the further the result is from 50, the more anomalous. This is an example of a two-tailed test because the two ends of the hypothesis are the most notable and have a small p-value, while the middle of the distribution is expected and has a large p-value. The mapping, given above, is a one-tailed test. One end of the range of values of O, here the low end, is interpreted as being the most anomalous, and the other end is interpreted as being the most expected. For our coin flip test, a two-tailed, pun not intended, good one. What is the pun? Oh, because you can get a coin flip and a coin can be heads or tails, two-tailed, good one. For our coin flip test, a two-tailed test would have been more appropriate. 60 or more heads would have been just as anomalous as 40 or fewer heads, so that X equals 40 would have had a p-value of P for O is less than or equal to 40 or O is greater than or equal to 60, which equals 0.5689, which is twice as much as this. Okay. A one-tailed test would have been appropriate if we had, prior to collecting observations, expected orbit interest in a coin that was biased for one side in particular. If we were trying to find coins that were biased in favor of heads, we say we'd use a p-value, or or use the p-value, the probability of O is the number of heads in a coin flip was greater than or equal to x, and the observation that x equals 40 heads would not have been anomalous at all, in favor of the alternative hypothesis over the normal. Okay. In summary, the two things we need the mapping to satisfy are as follows. Assuming the null hypothesis result P should be a random variable uniformly distributed in the range of 0 to 1. Assuming the alternative hypothesis or the alternate hypothesis, we want P to be as small as possible. If we observe P equals 0.001, that this is very surprising under the null hypothesis as 1 in 1,000, a 1 in 1,000 coincidence. The second property of the mapping gives us the best chance of observing these surprisingly small values of P if, in fact, the null hypothesis isn't true. This increases the statistical power of the test. Our reasoning process, therefore, looks as follows. If the null hypothesis is true, then a very small value of P is unlikely. So if we observe a small value of P, we reject the null hypothesis. If we do not observe a small value of P, we fail to reject the null hypothesis and do not reach any particular conclusion. Okay. There are two key differences between hypothesis testing and Bayesian reasoning. With hypothesis testing, we do not assume any prior probabilities for the two hypotheses. They are not treated as random events at all, but as simply unknown prepositions, and we do not calculate a distribution for the observable O conditioned on the alternative hypothesis B. If we have access to those two additional pieces of data, then we should perform a Bayesian calculation, and we would get a stronger conclusion of the form of the probability of A or B given O, instead of a weaker conclusion of reject or fail to reject A with some confidence level P. Hypothesis testing is used when these extra pieces of data are unavailable or highly speculative. For our coin flips, we don't have any prior expectation of the probability of a coin being biased. And we can't calculate the probability of observing a certain number of heads conditioned on the coin being unfair, since the alternative hypothesis is for any bias, not a particular amount of bias. The p-value obtained from hypothesis testing cannot be turned into a probability for a hypothesis without adding the information. Okay, frequently, when working with complicated systems, it makes sense to focus on a single observation and yield just a p-value, the probability of some observation given A, or Bayes factor, the probability of some observation given A divided by the probability of some observation given not A, for that observation, and leave the calculation of the probability of event A given n observations all happening together to secondary analysis. However, or otherwise, when combining observation or multiple primary analyses, it would be necessary to undo all their calculations to sort out conflicting priors and other choices. For this reason, primary research usually stops at computing a p-value. Okay. Okay, we survived that section. Lies, damn lies, on how to get large numbers by taking powers of 2. Why? In the space of 176 years, the lower Mississippi has shortened itself 242 miles. That is an average of a trifle over 1 mile and a third per year. Therefore, any calm person who is not blind or idiotic can see that in the old Oolitic Silurian period, just 1 million years ago, next November, the lower Mississippi River was upwards of 1,300,000 miles long and stuck out over the Gulf of Mexico like a fishing rod. And by the same token, any person can see that 742 years from now, the lower Mississippi will be only 1.75 miles long, and Cairo and New Orleans will have joined their streets together and be plodding comfortably along under a single mayor and a mutual board of aldermen. There is something fascinating about science. One gets such wholesale returns of conjecture out of such a trifling investment of fact. Mark Twain. Wow, what a guy. This is not a real, sorry, quick meme break.
This is why the criticism doesn't matter to us. When you call us Nazis, Nazi this, Nazi that, you know, I'm beginning to think they don't like us. You know what? I've said this before, we need to learn from the blacks. The way they were able to remove the power from the N-word by using it. So from now on, it's, what up, my Nazi? Hey, what up, my Nazi? Oh my God. Hey, what's hanging, my Nazi?
Nazi, please.
Thank God you did a hard eye there. What does it tell you, though?
Okay. Okay. Oh, there's more math here. Okay, that's okay. 3 point. Okay, that's all right. This is the end of chapter 2. Okay. Oh, no, wait. This is start of chapter 3. Okay, that's okay. We're getting through this section. Suppose you suspect something about your senator is quite odd, and perhaps they are not human at all, but rather secretly a lizard from space. To test this, you collect 100 pieces of data that inform the question. From any of these data points, you know what to expect for humans, how tall they are, how much do they weigh, shapes of facial features, thickness of fingers. Of course, they would not make their lizardness so obvious, so you collect data on vocal patterns, word choices, oddities in their education history, interviews with supposed personal friends. You collect reports on UFOs near their presumed arrival time, look for military flight patterns, cryptic comments made by public officials around that time. Soon you have 100 independent observations that bear on the question. Predictably, even if you have been completely fair in your data collection, all 100 data points are accurate and you do not specifically seek out information that you know will be odd. Even if you only chose to start this investigation because you already had made some specific observations that are odd. If you are naive with your analysis in certain ways, you will invariably conclude that they are a lizard. How? Well, if you use hypothesis testing, you might calculate a p-value for each of your 100 observations. Shockingly, you discover their ring finger is extremely long. At p equals 0.01, it is highly anomalous, a 1 in 100 coincidence. Clearly a lizard. This is a common trap, usually inadvertently called penis hacking. Bayesian reasoning is capable of exactly the same error. For each of these observations, you compute a Bayes factor. Half of them are less anomalous than average, Bayes factor 1, and half of them are more anomalous than average. They are only weakly anomalous, a 1 in 2 coincidence each, so Bayes factor 2, but with 50 such pieces of weak evidence, your total Bayes factor is 2 to the 50, totally overwhelming any prior you had against secret space lizards. However, let us be a little less reckless. After all of those less anomalous observations should have had a Bayes factor smaller than 1 because they are evidence for humanity. Recall that we can convert Bayes factors to probabilities as probability equals 1 over 1 plus b. I am eliding some details and assumptions here. Basically, I have assumed that any evidence against humanity is for space lizards. As this maximizes the test, I have also a nagging suspicion that I've omitted a factor of 2 and converting to Bayes factors, but the end result appears not to be missing any factors. Okay. So for a p-value, p, not probability, p, we can correspond to the Bayes factor, b equals 1 divided by p minus 1. If our observations are chosen so that p is uniformly distributed in the range of 0 to 1, then b will be distributed from 0 to infinity. As we calculate the total log odds by adding up each of the 100 random values of log b, we undergo a random walk. The median step size, Jesus, this is absolute value of s equals the absolute value of log b of this random walk is plus or minus log 3 equals plus or minus 1.1. The average is log 4 plus the variance. Oh my God, we don't need this at all. Variance O squared? What the fuck is this even for? Is this variance of some function s equals the function, what is e here? I don't even know what e means. This is function s squared minus this thing s, when this whole thing squared equals this expected value, variance, expected value. What is this giant thing again? Is this summation of the function, all the values from 0 to 1? I don't remember any of this shit. Oh, integral. No, this is integral. I don't know why I mix these up. Integral of, okay, so the integral from 0 to 1 is log b squared dp, double penetration, circles, 3's, 3.2. Okay. So the standard deviation is obviously 1.8138. Oh, duh. After 100 random steps, our final position has a variance of 100 O squared. I don't know what the O even means. The variance? Is that what O is? Or standard deviation of 10 sigma. Oh, is that a sigma? My bad. Or standard deviation of 10 sigma equals 18.138. A Bayes factor of e to the 18.138 gives a probability indistinguishable from certainty. So we most likely find strong evidence either in favor of lizardness or humanness. Okay, last page for today. Digression. For convenience to perform this calculation, I've assumed all our observations are numerical with known distribution. If so, the appropriate statistical test would be a z-test similar to a t-test on the mean of the z-scores of the observations, and not to do any kind of Bayesian calculation at all. More likely, some of our observations will not be numerical or come from unknown distributions, so that a z-test cannot be performed. However, what happens if we have a slight bias? Indeed, even if all of our data points are individually fair, we might be biased about which data points we collect. Suppose we conveniently overlook half the data in favor of humanity, so we have 2/3 for lizards and 1/3 for humans. This may still look like we are being extremely fair. After all, we've included 33 data points against our desired conclusions. However, the difference is massive because random walks add noise that scales with the square root of the number of steps, but a biased random walk drifts at a rate that is linear with the number of steps. The total bias is 100 divided by 3 log 4 equals 46.21, completely overwhelming any random noise, which will also be slightly less than the before. I didn't calculate that much, leading us consistently to the conclusion in favor of lizardness. The comment is about e to the 46 to 1. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can recite this. There's no way I'm going to be able to recite this. It's a more complicated way of explaining that if you are collecting biased data points, the more you're collecting a ratio of biased data points, the more you're going to be moving away towards any valid conclusion given the bias of those data points, basically, but in a more complicated way, I guess. Okay. Okay. Of course, such bias in the data could also exist because lizardness is the right conclusion, and that data is accurately reflecting that, but the analysis of any one data point, or potentially all 100 data points, is sufficient to distinguish between a completely fair Bayesian analysis, revealing an anomaly, or a slightly biased Bayesian analysis with no true signal. What's more, we can get qualitatively the same result using far fewer than 100 data points. All we need is 100 potential data points. If there are 100 different ways, we can make an observation and we ignore the 90 least interesting ones with Bayes factors closest to 1. They are the ones that make the smallest contribution to the final result, and most will cancel with each other. Thus, by making only 10 interesting observations, we get more or less the same result as if we made 100, though with a bit more randomness. This is saying that if we had 100 different ways that we can make an observation and we ignore the 90 least interesting ones, so a Bayesian factor with close to 1 means that given A or given not A, you're still likely to, it's close to 50%, right? So like, if I could collect 100 data points, whatever a Bayes factor of 1, is it a Bayes factor of 1 means it's 50-50 basically? Am I correct there, or is that like completely not close to correct? So like if I had 90 data points and it was like, what are the chances that this guy murdered, what are the chances this guy murdered JFK? And one data point is like, does he have 10 fingers? And the other data point is like, did he have a head? And the other data point is like, did he have 2 eyes? All of these things are like Bayes factors 1, because the murderer and the non-murderer are both like similarly positioned to have all of these features. But the more interesting ones would be ones with a greater Bayes factor, where like, for instance, was he in the right place or whatever, or like geographic location or distance from him, stuff like that would be okay. 1 second. Jesus. All right. They are the ones that make the smallest contribution. Thus, by making only 10 interesting observations, we get more or less the same result as if we had made 100, though with a bit more randomness. If instead of a haphazard collection of observations, one makes a collection of evidence that is in some way canonical, it is much harder to introduce bias. Say, one considers all fingers, but only fingers. Oh, hey. Alternatively, while we were musing about space lizards, consider the Drake equation. Call me on my cell phone. That one, which attempts to put numbers to the Fermi paradox. This is like the chances of life existing in the universe, I think. While people may greatly disagree about the specific numbers to use for the terms of Drake equation and very slightly on exactly how the Drake equation is broken down into factors, the general structure of the equation is uncontroversial, as each factor represents an obligate step in the path from lifeless rock to observable intelligent life. Similarly, if a hypothesis can be broken down into subparts, each necessary for the hypothesis as a whole to hold, then there is less potential for bias in the selection of evidence, though there may remain disagreement about the numbers assigned to the evidence or what breakdown into subparts is cleanest. Jesus. I think Destiny said the shootings of the Minnesota Democratic legislators were by Republicans, right? What proof do we have they were really Republicans? Wasn't there... He had a list of Democrats he wanted to kill, or there was a list with Democrats on it. And then he already killed 2. And I thought that we had... Did we have his social media and the MAGA stuff? Oh, and they needed a bunch of flyers for one of the... to go to one of the No Kings events. I'd have to go back and check through the shit after, but... Oh yeah, his friend also said that he turned super mega, yeah. Destiny, this e-text from Stanford Methods has a course more accessible explaining... no, fuck you, I don't want a whole Bayes thing. I'm just trying to read and understand this. And then if I see it in the future, it's in my brain at least a little bit, okay? If each star is a potential host for intelligent alien life, and we can observe billions of stars, why do we not observe any alien life? Oh, okay. All right. Well, 23 of 83. Don't worry. The last 3 pages are a glossary, so... Jesus. Connections. Pearl. Okay, Pearl, Power, Boot, Play, Vault, Bounce, Shoe, Bars, Smile, Beam, Eject, Scream, Rings, Feathers, Nope, and Remove. Something about turning something on. Power, boot, play. No? Okay. Remove, boot, bounce, and eject. Bounce him. Get him out of here. Bounce him. Hell yeah. He got bounced. Easy. What the fuck? Okay. Smile, vault, rings, pearl, bars, beam, play, feathers, power, scream, nope, and shoe. These are, oh fuck, there's a horror movie in here I don't know. Oh, Pearl. No, I do know them. I know, I've seen all of these actually. No, I haven't seen the Nope one. Whew, okay. Play, rings, shoe. Am I crazy? Things that like Sonic has? There's no way, right? Like Sonic has the rings and his stupid shoes, and that can't, no shot. There's no way that's it. Feathers, power, beam, rings, light, like a beam of light, a light bar, rings of light, and a light vault. Doesn't make any sense. A light shoe, shoe light, power light. Fuck. Power. Okay, what? I don't even know what. I don't even know if I have the right thing. Feathers, vaults, shoe play, beam, rings, bars, and power. Bro, this is some retarded shit. The Olympic symbol has rings but that's it. Beam? A beam? It's gotta be like rings, lights, light rings, light beam. It's not like Kanye West songs, right? Super light beam, wasn't that a song? And power? No, it doesn't. It's missing some of it. Rings, oh my god. Rings, bars. Phone, your cell phone rings. Like, does your cell phone have power? Do you have bars? Do you have beams? Rings? Your cell can ring. Play, shoe? Feathers? This is not right. I don't know. I have no idea. This is one off. Beam. Bars, power, rings. What is this other one? Play, feathers, shoe, and vault. This is retarded. I hate my life. Okay, what does this mean? It's not... I switched to... I don't even remember what I did. Does this mean it has to be one of these? Or am I don't even know if I'm logicking this correctly. I don't know. I forgot. Don't know. Don't care. Oh my god, kill me. I even did gymnastics when I was a kid. Oh, I hate my life. Bars, beam, rings, and vault. Bars. Is this double... Or is this uneven bars? Are there even bars? Do they even do uneven bars anymore? I thought they took that out because women were blowing up their uteruses. Beam, rings, and vault. Horse feathers? Horse play, horsepower, and horseshoe. You have to explain that one? I thought that when women did... oh, no. They didn't remove uneven bars. I think they just took away one move. I think there used to be a move that you could do on uneven bars, but it was damaging women's like midsections too much. Am I making this up?
But athletes do dumbass things.
This move here. Or is that not... Oh, is it just this? Oh, maybe it wasn't that. I don't know.
At the 1972 Summer Olympics, a 17-year-old gymnast stood on top of the high bar, jumped up, did a backflip, and then grabbed the bar while continuing into a swing. Boom! A few years later, this technique would then be banned from competition. Now, to truly understand why this was banned, we need to quickly understand the evolution of the event. You see, if we look at the distance between the bars in 1972, you can see that they're fairly close together, and gymnasts could really easily transition from one to the other with little difficulty. But before this, routines of the early 1950s consisted of these little simple circles, kips, and balance holds, and they had more of a artistic ballet nature to them. Then in the late 1950s, the routine started to become a little bit more complex. They started adding in beats, where the athlete would hold onto the top bar and bounce their body off of the low bar, and they added in wraps, where they would wrap their body around the low bar.
Okay. All right, we will definitely finish the rest of this tomorrow, for sure, absolutely. We're going to cappuccino. I'll say this more. Be careful. Don't die. Be careful.